Across Vietnam's urban heartlands, gleaming high-rises and luxury apartments are rapidly reshaping the skyline. They stand as concrete symbols of a rising middle class, bold, ambitious, and expanding. Yet, right in the shadow of these modern towers lies a stark contrast: the reality of a low-income population that still makes up the vast majority of the nation's heartbeat. And here's what I've captured on the ground. By jumping on my motorbike and mixing in some still, observant shots, I want to give you the rawest, most complete look at the story I'm trying to share. To be honest, I was pretty blown away by the sheer number of cars and beautiful homes here. Even though they're just commercial row houses, the quality is top-notch. They're built to premium standards, with price tags easily running into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Outside, the homes are accented with potted plants and greenery, bringing a touch of nature into the space. It instantly softens the edge of the city, breaking up that claustrophobic feel of urban living. I keep riding, passing row after row of parked cars. It feels like nearly everyone who owns a home here has a vehicle to match. It makes you wonder, is this the new benchmark for Vietnam's rising middle class? Just a few decades ago, the dream was simply putting enough food on the table and owning a nice motorbike. Right ahead of me, another new tower is climbing into the sky. Once finished, it's going to flood the market with even more luxury apartments. It seems the demand isn't slowing down anytime soon. And perhaps Vietnam's rising middle class is expanding far beyond what I had ever imagined. One thing that hits me here is the silence. It's a quiet that feels miles away from the chaos of other local neighborhoods. Maybe that's what a middle-class life buys you, a refuge from the noise. I hear very few voices on these streets. Instead, it's just rows of parked cars and closed doors. But this quiet points to something more troubling: the fading of community. When times are tough, people rely on each other to survive, forging a tight-knit social fabric. But today, that's changing. As I cross over into a different neighborhood, the contrast between that world and the low-income reality hits me immediately. And it's a divide that plays out right on the asphalt, written clearly in the sheer volume of motorbikes. These are the day laborers, the hourly workers, people just like this. Investors have done a great job tapping into the needs of this rising middle class. And right here is a perfect example: a sleek, modernized convenience store. But what about those who couldn't catch the wave? What about the rest of the low-income population? For them, life remains unchanged, trapped in the vicious cycle of poverty. And the hardest truth to swallow? There are still so many of them. Jobs like collecting scrap metal and recyclables bring in just $1 to $3 a day. It's a pittance, a number that feels worlds away from the affluent middle-class neighborhood we just left behind. Then you have the car washers, the micro shop owners. They're all in the exact same boat, riding the same wave of financial insecurity. On the left, you see sleek cars and beautiful, expensive homes. On the right, the reality of the working poor. Honestly, looking at this, I'm completely speechless. Looking at these scenes, the weight of this divide really hits me. These are lives entirely trapped by their circumstances. You have to ask yourself, will they ever break free? With the foot traffic just trickling in like this, how do they even make enough to survive? Then you see these makeshift sidewalk markets. Honestly, I barely see any customers here at all. In this area, the rising middle class and ordinary families live side by side, shifting away from the strict segregation we saw earlier. But that proximity doesn't erase the cold reality. It does nothing to close the glaring income inequality that runs deep through this society. While the wealthy and high-earning middle class gather at restaurants to enjoy their weekends, those at the bottom remain on an endless grind, working straight through the week. It reflects a Vietnam growing at breakneck speed, where many are rising up, but it also brings pressing social realities that demand deep reflection, especially for those who still struggle just to survive. Look at the sharp contrast right here. The luxury apartments of this modern tower standing just a stone's throw away from humble, low-cost street food joints. When business is this slow, these small shop owners just can't find a reason to smile. The quiet is costing them too much. This is just the everyday reality for low-income families here. Riding on motorbikes, wearing simple clothes, and shopping at these tiny local stalls. And honestly, that's the reality that stays with me. The sight of a scrap collector right next to the luxury cars cruising down the street creates a massive contrast. Her income is barely under $3 a day. I steer my motorbike into the narrow alleyways, and suddenly, a completely different world unfolds. Vibrant, raw snapshots of low-income life that stand in stark contrast to the middle-class neighborhood I showed you at the beginning of this video. These are the humble, budget-friendly rice joints that serve the local working class. A filling meal here is what keeps them going. Delivery drivers are still out here grinding, braving the blistering heat of the midday sun. The weathered walls, the beaten-up motorbikes, and those tiny sidewalk stalls, they all paint a clear picture of the low-income class, seemingly left behind in the dust of Vietnam's rapid development. And that is something that truly forces you to stop and think. And these are the snapshots of life that I really wanted to share with all of you. Thank you so much for watching until the very end. Through this video, I just wanted to say that while Vietnam is growing rapidly, there is still a long road ahead to lift the incomes of the majority of our people. Economic growth isn't always a perfect, rosy picture. Goodbye for now, and see you guys in the next video.